By the end of this video, you're going to lose all your respect on BBC, Wipro, Infosys and all the propaganda websites. Interested? I've already earned enough hatred for bullying the education system and the corporate sector, who in the name of contributing to Indian market, play a major role in demoralizing the Indian people and keeping us slaves to Western societies. People will troll me for this, but what to do? I find these names involved in propaganda against Hindutva, against our dharma. So before we continue, let me make it clear that you might have seen all these characters in good terms, smiling, inspiring talks, philanthropy and nonsense, but here I'm going to expose the true nature. Let's get into the facts. BBC means British Broadcasting Corporation. Can you expect them to treat Indians well? Those who studied pre-independence, Britons were the ones who looted us, scraped our skin, sucked our blood. Atrocities on all aside, one dangerous thing they did to us is they have kept a lot of historians and journalists to constantly inject misinformation into the minds of people that British is great, Indians are barbarians. Even today their work continues. Utter idiots like Alexander and Aurangzeb were projected as great emperors by BBC. Have you seen Indians who are still fascinated about these idiots? There are movie songs on him in Telugu films. Who is responsible for this damage? BBC, world's largest fake news organization. The recent BBC documentary on Modi ji is the same trick to fool Indians that Modi ji is a tyrant. Before we get into the expose, let me remind you about the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. The British officer gave orders, but the people who started firing were Indians. BBC documentary is exactly similar to it. BBC documentary starts with Alishan Jafri. He's a journalist at the propaganda website The Wire. He is the writer behind BBC Hindi. He also writes for Article 14 and money laundering accused propaganda firm NewsClick. The second character in this propaganda documentary is Hartosh Singh Bal, editor of Caravan. If you're watching String since long time, I need not tell you what is Caravan. Or you can simply check his timeline to understand his ideology. The third character who appeared in the documentary is Nilanjan Mukhopadhyay, one of the writers of The Wire and Caravan. He also gets his salary from the money laundering accused NewsClick. The fourth character who appeared in the documentary is Arundhati Roy. Every Indian knows about her, thanks to Kashmir Files movie. For those who do not know, she was the first to give funds to propaganda fact-checking website Alt News and their communist owners. The fifth character in the documentary is Geoffrey Lord Christophe. Wire and Caravan promotes his propaganda works. He tagged Indian American Muslim Council, which is working to put sanctions on India. He's asking them to watch and share this propaganda BBC documentary, but still they failed, because no one except your anti-national toolkit gang, opposition political parties and a good amount of Muslim population are interested in it. Apart from that, no one is interested in it. Above all, we do not need BBC to tell us what happened and what not. The Supreme Court has given its judgment and that's it. Jack Straw, another important character behind this documentary, came on propaganda website The Wire for an exclusive interview just after the release of the documentary. Now the most important part, who funds these portals? It's very easy for people to troll me as a conspiracy theorist for taking these names. And because they are bigger than me in number, they might win, turning me into a funny character. That's why we deepen our research to expose their funding data. Because funding is something which doesn't happen unconsciously without your knowing, right? You cannot escape. Victim cards won't help. Only ED raids and shut down your factory. Just wait for it. So who is funding these propaganda portals? It's IPSMF, Independent and Public Spirited Media Foundation. It was started by securing a fund of 100 crores anchored by Wipro chairman Azim Premji and Rohini Nilekani. Look at whom she admires. There are several I admire and it's hard to pick out one. And she picks out George Soros and his Open Society Foundation along with Bill Gates and the Ford Foundation. These ultimate fraudsters are in the list of her best admirers, filtered, hard to pick one category. You must remember that Nandan Nilekani, husband of Rohini Nilekani, has contested the election on a Congress ticket in 2014 after joining Congress. She funds an organization which in turn will fund all the propaganda portals actively working towards destroying Hindutva. Look at this. Rohini Nilekani has committed 30 crore to this trust. So here is the conclusion. We consider this as a conspiracy against our nation in which deep state wants to divide India, and these are the people helping them, just like how a few Indians at Jallianwala Bagh fired and killed thousands of innocent Indians upon a British officer's instruction. The part 2 of the propaganda BBC documentary covered the removal of Article 370 and the CAA protest. They have shown UAPA accused Safura Zargar as a victim. A few years back, in Jan 2011, professional leftist activists of India and a few Islamic countries organized Gaza Caravan to help terrorist organizations like Hamas and aimed at Free Gaza. Let's look at the 4 Indians among 8 who had boarded the boat: Brigadier Sudhir Sawant, Shaheen Kattiparambil, Jamaat-e-Islami Hind, Aslam Khan, AISA, Ajit Shahi from Tehelka. Brigadier Sudhir Sawant later became AAP Maharashtra Chief in 2019. Ajit Shahi joined Indian American Muslim Council as Advocacy Director. He has whitewashed the crimes of SIMI and actively working against India. Who arranged funds for Gaza Caravan in 2011? SQR Ilyas, father of Umar Khalid, president of Welfare Party, and Prabir Purkayastha, owner of NewsClick, have taken full responsibility to coordinate funds. Now do you understand why Safura is being shown as victim in the documentary? Umar Khalid, a UAPA accused, is still in jail, and his father is a friend of the owner of NewsClick. And both of them have worked together to support Hamas. So, Jamaat-e-Islami Hind runs a web of NGOs with different names like Vision 2026, Human Welfare Foundation, and Human Welfare Trust, etc., which have partnership with many international NGOs. You must watch my video on Civil War Alert to understand how dangerous their plans are and what happens if we don't act now. So the Human Welfare Trust, who are the main supporters? Qatar Charity, IHH, Turkish Intelligence Agency affiliated NGO, Humanitarian Relief Fund, and many more. Interestingly, one of the producers of the Propaganda BBC documentary, Sadhana Subramaniam, has received funds for her first documentary from Qatar-owned Al Jazeera. She locked her profile to hide her connections. Her first documentary was also a propaganda targeting the caste system. Almost all the propaganda websites have received funds from an NGO called IPSMF. Here's the list of donors and beneficiaries. Now do you realize why you saw people from The Wire, Caravan, and the sister organizations and the journalists starring in the documentary? I'm not yet finished. Please bear with me for a little more time. They're very important things. Founding trustee of IPSMF, Ashish Dhawan, founded a private equity firm, Chris Capital, in the year 2000. The Kuwait government, the government of Singapore, Bill Gates, and other American European tycoons and universities were the private investors. Interestingly, the co-founder of Infosys, N.S. Raghavan, was on the advisory board of Chris Capital. In 2008, when the entire world was hit by a recession, including the Indian market, Chris Capital invested $200 million in Infosys. In 2002, Ashish Dhawan made $60 million on a $10 million investment by selling Spectramine to Azim Premji's Wipro. And that's how he put 100 crore to start IPSMF. And we have seen Rohini Nilekani, wife of Infosys co-founder Nandan Nilekani, promised 30 crore to IPSMF. Rohini Nilekani started an NGO, Pratham Books, in 2004, which had received initial support from Rajiv Gandhi Foundation. Currently, her NGO receives Ashish Dhawan CFS, Azim Premji, Bill Gates, and Education Above All. Education Above All is an NGO funded and run by the former First Lady of the State of Qatar, Sheikha Moza bin Nasser. Her husband Hamad bin Khalifa was the founder of Al Jazeera and Qatar Foundation. He has also played a big role in Arab Spring too. He has also funded the terrorist organization Hamas and supported other international terrorist organizations too. Please learn this at least now after watching this video. There is a whole bunch of NGOs working towards destroying Hindutva. People who created documentary, people who appear to target and play the victim card, people who are circulating through their propaganda media, the journalists, people who are doing protests in the universities are totally funded and connected and supported by the same ecosystem. Basically, it's a group of oil companies, pharma companies, and IT companies. People involved in this cartel run various governments through think tanks. They put pressure on the government to make policies according to their needs. If the government doesn't obey, they employ their social media activists and the media to create havoc in the society. They can create chaos from a very small issue and can convert it into a big movement which can throw the government out balance. For example, Arab Spring. Can you imagine the level of drama? All of them look professional, dressed in suit, projecting themselves as philanthropists, providing jobs to people and creating a lot of employments. But in reality, driving people nuts on streets for their selfish needs, for their business needs, and above all, a clear vision to destroy Hindutva. Understand, no one except a yogi is interested in the well-being of people. You people are brainwashed in such a way that you criticize yogis as businessmen looting public funds and playing with people's lives. But the actual monsters who disturb the peace and harmony and create unrest in the society are being celebrated as philanthropists. There is a wonderful saying in Telugu language for these people. గొర్రె కషాయాన్నే నమ్ముతుందంట. What an illusion. Mahadev, this is Maya. Scriptures are not wrong. Maya exists. Our sages were true.
Maya, Maya, Tagni Amjan, Tagni Amjan, Tagni Amjan. Ma